Hey everybody. Hey. First of all, give a round of applause for all of everyone that came today. Really excited to be doing this event, and we appreciate all the partners that brought this event together. I'm going to give the floor to Lori, who's going to be our moderator for this panel, and then give a round of applause to everyone here on the stage.
Chris asked me to open it up, but I've been in the industry for 25 years and I've got a lot of brain fog and I crave community, and so this kind of came together quickly. Chris has the energy and I sort of had the ethos of seeing the things that were missing from the spaces that I spent time in and the conferences that I've been to. And as there's still models based upon the previous system. So I'd be going to these events and people would be selling something on stage, but afterwards it felt like a disconnect of an egocentric forum. And so while my intent may seem grand, it's actually quite simple. So I appreciate you all kind of coming out of your comfort zone or just supporting your friends. I think many of us who've been in it a while may have a mask up, and I hope we can find these spaces where we can kind of be ourselves and connect when we can, and then go move out into the community and nourish it in the best way possible, then hopefully come back together. So tonight, if I don't know everyone's story, but if y'all want to stay connected, please do. I'm a very internet person I have a chronic illness. I'm online a lot and build communities online. So I've known people for 20 years that I've never met in person, and I still love seeing their work and their success. And because the industry, I hate to use that word, it's a long and winding road, and it's not all up and it's not all down. So I'm really excited to just be here, and I am feeling emotional. And thank you for being here. And Chris asked me to go on the panel, which is a little embarrassing, but I am on the panel today. I don't think I'll be on the panel again, but I'm on the panel today. So thank you all for coming.
Well, hey everyone, I'm Lori Stratton. So I am a music journalist in Southeast Michigan. I publish a music blog called the Stratton Setlist. I'm also a board member with the Michigan Music Alliance. It's a real honor to be here today. I just want to thank Chris and Sarah, Girls Rock Detroit, CoMuse, Michigan Music Alliance, of course, and Catch and Play Songs for bringing us all together in this really cool space. This is the first time I've ever been here, so this looks like a great gathering place for shows or art or photography or anything on the creative side. But again, I just want to say it's a real honor. For these ladies, I have pretty much interviewed or met all of them at one point or another in my experiences with music in Michigan, mainly in Southeast Michigan. But what I thought I'd do briefly is kind of introduce each one, and then we'll have a round of questions where everyone can take a response. We'll do that for a while, and then we'll leave it open for Q&A at the end, where people can then ask questions to any of the panelists or to all of us, whatever you prefer. But let me start. So you met Sarah T. Sarah is a sonic creator and artist. We also have Chesney Walters, who's a marketing coordinator and artist. And then we have Taylor DeRoos, who runs Tailored Harmonies. She's a founder of that music school in Waterford, and she's also a musician. And then we have Jade Gallant, who is an artist manager. And then we have Jenny Jones, who runs her own business and also Sadie Mad Music, and then is an artist manager as well. So let's give everyone a round of applause for our panelists today. And I thought so one of the things we want to do is talk about building kind of sense of community with women in the music industry and kind of focusing on kind of exactly the spirit of what Sarah was talking about. So before we get into that, I thought it'd be nice if we could learn about everyone's backgrounds and figure out how they got started in music. So Sarah, we'll start with you. Can you tell us briefly about your background and how you got started? And then we'll have everyone else answer after that.
Okay. That long and winding road I talked about earlier definitely was that. It ended up starting as a DJ in radio that moved to clubs, that ended up learning drums. I was the person outside looking in, thinking I would be behind the scenes, and then within a month I ended up being in bands for 10 years. And pre-YouTube, I was interested in audio engineering, but there just weren't the resources. So in my time with chronic illness, I've returned to the recording process and producing and sort of reconnecting with the time that I lost with quite a few years to hazing and sort of harassment in the industry where I did not see a space for myself. It didn't make sense. So yeah, I'm back on that, and I like to curate sound spaces and sound baths and things that are healing and intentional to the spaces that they're in.
I'm Chesney. I've been singing and been in love with music since forever, which I think probably a lot of you can relate to. I went to college for vocal performance, which was like a dual program where I was a summer camp counselor pretty much, and I got to teach kids music, dance, and performing arts, and go on the road, go on tour, and sing myself, which I loved. Through that, I business managed one of those tours. It was actually in Michigan. It was a summer camp. It was really fun. And that was the first time that I was like, wow, there's a whole business side to this music thing. That's cool. And that sounds like kind of reliable. So I moved to Detroit in 2019. I went to a school called DIME. It was the Detroit Institute of Music Education, which some of you might know, which was great. I met a lot of amazing people there. And that kind of got me into being serious about the music industry. I now work in marketing for AEG Presents, which is great. It's been very fun. I'm also a musician. With my time at DIME, I never intended to go into like bands and like being a songwriter, but DIME really opened my eyes. I took a songwriting class and I was like, this is awesome. So I got to kind of explore that, and I'm also a songwriter. I have a band and a solo project that I work on, which is very dear to me. And yeah, I think Detroit has been an awesome place for me to kind of just grow and meet amazing people. And yeah.
Sounds awesome. It's so interesting to learn about you guys. I always say at my gigs, like, I don't like to like introduce myself or like talk in between songs. Like, I just want to play music. So I'm gonna get some good practice talking today. But my name is Taylor. I also have been a music kid my whole life, with lessons and learning about music. I have a bachelor's degree in piano performance, so I'm classically trained. And then I also have one more class on an MBA right now that I've been doing, and I own Taylor Harmony's Music Company, which is a music studio where we do lessons and classes, and we've dabbled in like live music and having different songwriter sessions and that sort of thing as well. And going to college for music, I had all the classes, but you know, I knew I always wanted to do music, and I just didn't know like how that was actually like feasible. So teaching was the way for me. I started teaching on my own, private lessons and that sort of thing. And then when COVID hit, there was all my freelance and contracted gigs stopped. So I just kind of took that as my sign to start doing everything full-time on my own, and that's when I launched my business and then started gigging as well. So that's what I do full-time. I play a lot of cover gigs, bars, and weddings, and private parties and corporate stuff. And then just more recently in the past year or so, I've been doing my own thing as an artist. Just finished recording my first full-length record and just put out my first single. So starting to get into that realm too, and it's just like learning every step of the way. There's like no path to follow. You're just like figure it out as you go, which is a blessing and a curse, maybe. But that's what we're doing, yeah. She's got one.
Okay. My name is Jade. I'm an artist manager. I've always had a love for music. I've never like been a singer or like had that voice. That wasn't my gift, but that's okay. I'm a really big planner and like organizer, so I actually met Chris, who put on this great event, through Motown Accelerator. I did like an internship in college for a PR agency, which I thought I wanted to do PR initially in music. And after that internship, I learned that I would kind of still want to be more on the creative side. So after graduating in COVID, I was a part of the Motown Accelerator program and met my current artist, Kenzie. And kind of like Taylor, I took the, environment of COVID as an opportunity to build my management company, Sophisticated Sounds, and since then just been continuing to work with my main artist, and yeah, just that's how I got here.
Hi, my name is Jenny. I am many things, just like everyone here. I did start out as a musician with piano, so I'm classically trained in piano. Took cello as the elementary school instrument where you get to choose, and they were out of flutes, so my backup was a cello. And then I learned in college guitar. There were a lot of like college girls who really wanted to play guitar, but like we didn't have access to one. And there was one guy who like played guitar that everyone loved, and I just remember like going up to the guy and I'm like, I really want to learn, and he was like, well, here, have my acoustic guitar. And I was like, really? But he didn't teach me anything. I learned from Guitar for Dummies. That's how I learned to play guitar. Book. And while I was classically trained in piano, did cello through elementary school, middle school, high school, and into college. I felt like a real kindred spirit with my guitar and became a songwriter. So I wrote my first song, I think, in like 2001, and released my first album in 2011. And when you release an album, they ask you to start like a publishing company so that all of your music is under your name. And I created a name. I created City Bend Music in 2011 and realized that while I made art and released it, I didn't want to tour with it. It was not my interest. I just wanted to release art. And also through my piano performance classes at Eastern, I was really not in love with performing live. And so I just ended up going, hey, this process was a little tricky. And when I look back at my album, some of those things, the flavors, the instrumentation were from the producer and weren't necessarily my own, and realized that I did want to help people kind of go through that process. So I began helping a lot of artists with small things like press releases. I have an administrative background. I'm in HR for an engineering consulting firm. So there were a lot of things that I was like, I can just help you with that, or I can help you with this. And I started working for a band in 2012, Aaron Zindel and the Ragbirds, and they just kind of threw me into the mix. Their manager was like, do this, do that, and the other. And I started meeting a lot of musicians around the Ann Arbor, Southeast Michigan, state of Michigan community that have, gone on to have wonderful careers in music. And it's just very inspiring to know that those artists do give back by coming back to town. So, if I can name drop, like Theo Katzman from Wolfpack, and, just a lot of musicians from across the country who have roots here in Michigan do give back. And so it's always honoring to know some people just need a little bit of help, or as I was telling someone before we started, just a little kick to get them going and to remind them that this is your dream and it's important. And so I really am coming from a place of wanting to help, even though I am still a musician. I do still perform with other artists. I might go back and do some solo work, but overall it's just a matter of helping people.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing all those stories. And one of the common threads I see is a lot of people volunteered. And that's something that I'm not a musician, but I love music. And so I kind of volunteered by starting my own music blog and interviewing all kinds of people, mainly in Michigan, but then sometimes outside of Michigan too. And that kind of led me to actually get a full-time writing job for the Ann Arbor District Library. And now I'm doing that and hosting concerts there periodically. So volunteer is one way I found, is to find that sense of community and find people that you can assist in whatever you're passionate about, if it's music, if it's performing, behind the scenes stuff, venues, it could be anything, festivals. But that's what I found. And I found through this that I met a lot of great artists, a lot of great people, that I've developed a lot of good friendships, and a lot of these people I've met that way, which I'm extremely grateful for. But one thing I found is I'm very inspired by what all these people do. Whether it's music or you're helping artists behind the scenes or whatever your leadership role is And Mike, I'm curious, what inspires you about Michigan's music scene? And Sarah, why don't you go ahead?
So, what I love about the Michigan music scene, the roots here, I'm trying to engage my heart, right? Because nerves can get in the way. The roots of Michigan music are probably, I think, one of the deepest in all of America and potentially the world. And a lot of the roots have been sort of taken and denied and used up and disconnected. And so I love the current state of sort of reclaiming space for the lineage of techno, for the lineage of Motown at its heart, for the lineage of the garage stylings, proto-punk. I mean, there's so many things that have been birthed here And so I love being able to walk into a store with a Stooges shirt on, and somebody who's literally 75 plus is there with me. They've seen the birthing of these cultures. They're not just an outsider. They saw the birth of the music from. So it's not just fans. It's people who saw it happening. And so I've never had such an intergenerational connection between all ages and ranges before in any city that I've lived in, and so or any state that I've lived in. So I like the tenacity, it's the spirit, the strength. Coming back to Michigan, where my family's from, it's just sort of a completion of just like the roots that I've been seeking and looking for elsewhere.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. We can go to the same one.
I have almost a different side of it. I moved to Detroit in 2019, so I kind of have a little newer perspective on it. I'm a newbie here. I still kind of feel like that at times. But something that I love about it here is that everybody's very inviting and open. I find that the community in Detroit is small but mighty, and it's not even that small, but I guess when you look at some other places, it might be considered smaller. But everybody's really kind and open and willing to collaborate, so when I would put myself out there and come to something like this, or go to a show that I'd never been to with a band I liked but didn't know, and I would introduce myself, they would be totally receptive, and then I would be like, oh, let's write something, and people are like, yeah, let's write something. I find that is like not super common, and that is something I find super special about here. People are open, people want to work, and if you want to work, they want to work, and if you find those people, you can kind of create awesome stuff. So what inspires me about Detroit is that there are so much talent and people that are really doing the work here and just open to sharing and growing.
Well, I think I'm gonna go off of that because I agree. I think that's something that inspires me about the music community here specifically is the people. And that being said, coming from someone who I think I'm kind of like pessimistic sometimes, like the people also, I've had so many negative experiences, but really like at the end of the day, if I think about it, that I think really is truly what keeps me going is the people and the connections that I've made that keep me inspired or keep me like keep encouraging me. And I went to school like in the Grand Rapids area, so I've had experience in other parts of Michigan, and I think that Detroit specifically is something special. Even outside of the music community, like you meet someone somewhere else in the country and they say they're from Detroit and you're like, oh, cool. Like, there's a certain sense of humor. I think there's a certain like grit. Go on. To quote Dan Campbell or whatever, but I really think that when you go other places, you come back home to Detroit and you can really feel that. And I think that is the most inspiring thing. People are like very open, very kind, and very humble. I meet musicians all the time that will play with me, or I've worked with them on recording sessions, and then they tell me afterwards that their music was just recently in like a Super Bowl commercial, or they were just singing on tour with Katy Perry. I think that there's like truly like so much skill and expertise and talent here, but at the end of the day it has like that Detroit flavor. Like it's like everyone, they're for the most part like it's like good people, and there are so many different levels and like accessibility on those different levels. I think for musicians that are just starting off or are really like at that like super professional level, which I think is also unique, and you don't find that even in other places in Michigan. You don't have those different levels and those different places that you can play and grow and network.
Kind of similar to what everybody else said, it's kind of hard to ignore or forget that this is like Motown. Like this is the heart of a lot of big music artists, as well as like techno or house music. Like we have a really strong and rich culture that started in Michigan and in Detroit. So when you go other places, like if you say you're from Detroit, depending on the age range, most people know Motown, or they know like, oh, techno music if they're like really into the music scene. So I think kind of like everyone said, just the diversity of the different artists. Like there are a lot of artists here that I've never met, but I'm sure that somehow we can connect, and kind of it all bridges back to just that rich culture that Michigan offers in terms of music. I think that's really important, and like I said, just kind of really like hard to ignore or not fall into and lean into the differences, but also how everybody makes one big whole and we kind of all come together.
I kind of just echo what everyone said too. In terms of, I just think of the music community in terms of like all of our gifts and talents. We do wish to share those like with audience members, but also, you know, with other musicians. And so I found that there are people that are very willing to be like, I need a drummer. I need a bass player, you know, and someone that can fill in, you know, maybe just for studio recording, or, you know, willing to share those resources and that time. It doesn't always work out, but there is a willingness to, you know, show up for someone whenever they can. And that's something I've noticed here, and that's been very comforting. And I realized talking to people from outside of the state that doesn't always happen. And so it is something that is a really big gift.
Yeah, and I can say one of the things that I observe a lot when I go to shows, that I see a lot of other artists showing up to support other artists. And there's that community in, you know, different pockets around the state. And then a lot of times they'll willing to travel to Grand Rapids for a show, they'll come out to Detroit for a show. And that's one of the things that really inspires me as a writer, is I see a sense of community relationship building, people truly being out there to support each other. And to me that makes this even better, because I know there's a lot of great other music cities around the country and around the world, but it's nice to know in Detroit here and in Michigan in general that we have a very supportive group that are willing to root for each other and advocate for each other. So
I think it's like special because other places in the country, like, they think they're like known for music, or like, oh, I'm gonna go to this city to make it in music, and it's like people here in Detroit are like doing it every day, but we like, it's, I don't know, it's just so much talent, and it's like so humbled. You know what I mean? It's like underrated. Like, yeah.
I would totally agree. And one of the things I found is the more I got into meeting people and writing about what they were doing and learning about their music, is that there's so many like right in your own backyard. Like so many people down the road that live for me, in the city, I mean across the state. Y'all are everywhere, and I'm thankful for that. Because we need more of you out there. We need more people out there supporting like the local music and the statewide music, because it's just such a great, I don't know, I can't say enough things, but but moving on to our next question, you know, one thing is, what's an important skill that you feel like that's often overlooked that people need to really kind of excel or navigate the music industry, whether you're in Michigan or outside of Michigan? Could you talk about maybe a skill that you feel is crucial that people need to have in order to kind of be successful in music? Yeah. Go ahead, Jenny.
Yeah.
We'll mix it up.
No, it's fine. I was like formulating my answer, but there's like I feel like it's not just one skill, because I was thinking about this yesterday and today, and this moment was the ability, or at least the desire, to have community is a really big skill. I mean, it goes beyond networking, I guess, in my opinion, just from a sense that, you know, this is where you live and this is where you hopefully thrive. And you want a community around you that understands how important that is. And I think most of us have like really great core memories around music, around what you were doing when you heard your first, like, you know, this is my favorite song ever. And sometimes those songs are built around you. And so one of those skills is just having an understanding that it really does take, you know, everyone, whether you are musically inclined or whether you're not, just having a willingness of saying, like, it's going to take many hands to do this. And I think that's one of the skills, is to realize that's kind of a big one for me, is just realizing it's going to take many hands as much as we want to do it ourselves.
I'd say for me, just being a consistent learner. So kind of like Jenny said, you know, community is one thing, networking is one thing, being in certain spaces is like, you should always want to network and learn from people. But as a manager, when I'm like at concerts, I'm looking at the space, like, what can I learn from this space? Like, what is the sound, like, what is their, you know, team doing that my team would be doing? Or like just constantly learning from whatever space you are, whether it's a music space or just creative space, or like anything like that. Just constantly learning. You can read the books and things, but you have to like go out in person and like actually immerse yourself in the space to learn a lot from it.
When you think about this question, I feel like you could come up with like a laundry list of things, you know, like what skill do, I mean, as artists and as creators and as entrepreneurs, you know, business people, what skills do we not, you know, need? I think that we have to wear so many hats. So we could go on forever, but in order to like put those into action, I feel like you really need, kind of going back to like saying grit, but like resilience, because it's not easy, and it's not easy to continuously like put yourself out there or ask for help or you know, be continuing to learn, because there is no like you know, set or training or anything like this. And I think that people like talk a lot about resilience, but it's not like talked about or really like, you know, thought about what actually that means. You know, how much like rejection or how much like showing up consistently it like actually takes, like how many tears you have to cry, but like to still get up and believe in yourself is like so crazy, and feels so impossible sometimes. But I really think like if you really want the thing that you're pursuing, whatever it is, you know, you can learn all those skills that you need and the hats that you have to wear, but not if you're not going to be like resilient about it. So I guess I feel like, yeah, you just have to like keep showing up for yourself and for your art.
That is so true. That's something I think we all struggle with at times, but it's just like getting up no matter what. I think I would say like follow through. I don't know of anything in life that wouldn't benefit from follow through. Truly, it's like a life skill, just like resilience in a lot of these. But I think something that I really appreciate when I'm meeting someone to work on something, whether that's creative or an event or something, is they say they're going to do something and then they do it. If I say I'm going to write this song, I'm going to write it and finish it. If I'm doing a session with somebody, I'm going to go, you know. And I think that following through, like despite the doubts sometimes, you know, obviously you have, you know, when you have to have the discernment to know what is appropriate, but for the most part, I think following through on what you say you're going to do is something that would serve everyone and enables a lot of really cool stuff to happen. Like, I don't know if I want to go to this session because I'm kind of nervous, I don't know this person, but we're going to do it anyway, and we're going to write the song, and then it comes out and we get to share it, which is great.
That's such a good point, because there is that point of pressure where you have to figure out when to push yourself a little bit more and when to take a break, because some of the people I've mentored, you know, there's always another show, there's always something to go to, but if you're not taking care of yourself in that reality too, you're overextending. So I think balance is one, echoing what everyone's saying, grit and resilience, but also I think like having a tunnel vision so strong that I abandoned for years, sort of the deeper vision that I had, because I got to a point where I was successful, but then I lost my own vision. And so having the resilience to return to that spark that you wake up with and protecting it when nobody believes in you, they'll eventually will, and then they'll ask you for a guest list. And then that was the initial, after hearing everyone speak, I'm just echoing that similar to you, there's so many people I've wanted to hire and work with. The most talented people aren't always the ones who follow through, who reply to the damn email. I can't book them. So there's many times where I've been booked, where I'm not the best person to book, but I follow through, so I get booked and I show up. So it is what it is, you know. While other people complain, I'm like, well, it's very, very hard to refer people if you're not showing up and following through. So, yeah.
I think that kind of comes back to you too. Like if you show up for other people, they're going to show up for you. You hope, and I think that they do. And it's just like the more you show up, the more other people show up, and then we're all showing up, and everybody's doing all this stuff that we might be scared to do. But if you push through that, then like, you know, rising tide raises all ships, type of thing.
So to add to that, and this is probably more for my line of work, is listening. I want to add listening as a skill back, because listening to people talk, listening to people's find out what is their creative vision, where are they headed, and of course listening to your music. So like, as someone that's not a musician but listens to a lot of music, I like to intently listen and figure out maybe what you're trying to say, interpret my own way and apply that to my own life. So I feel like a lot of that is listening and providing feedback. So, to add to that. And one other question I think that was curious was like, I find this thinking maybe more at my age, but like, is there any advice you give your younger self about pursuing a career in music that maybe if you could look back, like you would tell yourself to do differently? Any advice you'd give in that regard?
I would definitely say to my younger self, like, don't be afraid to like put yourself out there. Like, I can be very introverted, and like now I see that, but like my younger self, I'd be like, oh no, it's okay. Like, you don't have to go, or like you'll see that person again later. Like, no, just talk to the person, or like put yourself out there as an artist and as a manager. Like, as an artist, there may be somebody you want to collaborate with, and you may think like, oh, well, I'll just like keep in touch later. Like, follow through, stay connected. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, because you never know, like the event that you said you weren't going to go to, you might meet somebody who, like, you know, helps you do something you need to do.
If anybody else wants to answer.
I would say don't stress out so much about everything all the time. I used to just want so badly this vision of like this perfect artist project or this perfect career or this fully realized version of myself that I have to make sure I found because I just show up every day and do it so I can make sure that it's just not that serious, you know? And it is, but you gotta trust yourself you're gonna show up for yourself. I put a lot of pressure on myself I kind of overextend myself at times and just worried a lot for no reason. Because if you go somewhere with an open heart and you connect with people and you show up, it'll come and you'll build those relationships. And networking is another scary word, but it's not like networking, it's like building relationships and making friends and showing up to shows and enjoying music and contributing it and giving it back. So I think that I would take a lot of pressure off myself to just kind of have fun with it, because it's music, it's supposed to be fun, that's what we're all doing.
Initially when you asked that question, I was like, oh God, where do I start? Poor girl. Hold on, just kidding. No, on a more serious note, like I think I would tell myself like, you deserve this, you deserve to be here, and you deserve to like take up this space. I think, you know, like on a bigger level, society tells you that, you know, like you should be like a doctor or a lawyer or, you know, like all these other things. And I think that's so damaging to like a creative person or an artist. Like, it is a legitimate job and career and something to pursue, and like you're not what you do. But I think as an artist, like that, it's hard to separate that, which is just like so consuming sometimes. And so I think, you know, I would tell my younger self, and you know, I teach so many young kids, like I try to tell them as well, you know, like trust your gut and follow your heart and like do what feels right for you, and just trying to like take away, I guess, some of the like shame that's like around pursuing a path that isn't maybe like the most typical. I just feel like there are enough challenges that come with it, and so to like take out that negative aspect of it would be like so beneficial. And if someone could have helped me with that at a younger age, I think it would make like a world of a difference to me where I am now and today. And just as women as well, I think like we're in such a male-dominated industry, and we're all here, so we all, I'm sure, like know that and live that each day, and you know, just reminding yourself like you deserve to be here, and you're knowledgeable, and you're good at what you do. And we could probably all tell like our younger selves that, you know, like our inner child. But yeah.
I like that it was, what would you ask your younger self, not like when you were a child or whatever. Like I could go back just 10 years and just say, even though it's more of a cliched answer, it's just like, you know, ask for what you want. You know, if you want to be taught in something, if there was something that you were like, I'm really curious but I think I would be good at it, or I want to learn from you, ask that question. I mean, I think that it could be a feminine thing, it could be a woman of color thing, but you know, there were moments where there were a lot of opportunities that I was like, oh, that would be really great for me to like do artist relations. I would have loved that. But I didn't ask for that. I just was like in my head like, this would be really cool. And like I had that at my fingertips and didn't ask, you know, to be involved in more of those things. And like the things is like we learn after that point, like we learn over time. So I don't necessarily regret that because all things come with time and it's at that moment that you were meant to have that thing. But every once in a while I'm like, what if I had asked in like different path entirely or something like that? Or maybe not. I just would maybe have more knowledge, you know, but you know, asking for what you want, or my father is always like, get what you want. You know, you can ask for it, get what you want. If you're not happy with something, like figure out how to, you know, get it to where you need it to be, but get what you want.
And to add to that, I'd say it never hurts to ask, because the worst people will do is not respond or say no. So to add to that, what you're saying, Jenny, the other thing I'd say, it's never too late. I didn't start my music blog until I was 40. So like, and by that age, sometimes as women, you might feel like, well, maybe I've passed my chance of doing things. And that reminded me that I wasn't. So like, it's never too late. I interview all kinds of musicians that started when they were younger. They might have, you know, changed careers, got married, had a family, things changed, and later in life, they went back to music. And those people inspire me at any age where they go after what they really want and what they're passionate about. And I say more power to you.
Yeah, there is an artist out there. I think she's on my water bottle. Yeah, Danielle Ponder. You know, she's
there. You go. Yeah, that's a good one.
She was a really great one. She's like, I think she was like a prosecutor. She was like in Rochester, New York, and she's like, I want to sing, and like
go.
Yeah, and she totally has killed it. I thought like she broke out when she did a spot on General Hospital, just like a random singer, like, but she's been touring and like just killing it. But she was like, I want to do this now.
Yeah, and those are the people I say it's never too late. Don't everyone tell you you can't do it. If you really want to do it, I'd say make it happen and find a way to make it happen, because life's too short to not do what you really want to do. And I know what that means. You got to support yourself and get paid, but but whatever you can do. And lastly, I want to ask, what project are you each working on now, and what are you most excited about with respect to that project? And we can go in any order if anybody wants to go first.
I am, as an artist manager, currently working on something specifically for independent artists. So a rollout template to help them with releasing EPs, projects, singles, videos, whatever the case may be. So I encourage you guys to follow my Instagram, Sophisticated, just like the word sophisticated sounds, with 3 S's at the end. So I'll be releasing that very soon, and it's for any artist who's independent or signed, but at any stage of your career, if you are managed or not managed and you need help with like, how do I put all of my ideas into one place, this will be really beneficial for you. So yeah.
Well, I have 2 aspects of my music career. I have my shop in Waterford, Tailored Harmonies, and we teach like about 120 students a week. So we're just chugging along, kind of like getting into that sweet spot of having and operating a business and keeping it sustainable. But that is really exciting because I go to different events and branch out in the music community and meet different musicians and instructors and bring them into the school and bring them into the team, and then have just like this wider range of education and knowledge to pass on to younger students. And I think, I take the responsibility as a musician really seriously of like passing that on to a younger generation, because I grew up in like piano lessons that were very strict and not really like feeding like what I actually loved about music. So I think that we're building a really cool space to do that, and I hope to continue to grow and pay my bills and do good doing that. And I also just finished recording my first full-length record, and I just put out the first single on Friday, actually. So you guys all probably know it's like a labor of love. And so I'm gonna be checking out that resource, because it is a lot, but that's what I'm up to.
I am working a lot on writing music. I just finished recording a couple of singles for my music project. It's called Street Pattern. I'm really excited about it. I have 2 songs out, so it's still quite early, but it's one of those things where I had been writing for a long time, and I had this thing I wanted to do that I was holding myself back from starting because I didn't know where it fit. And then I realized we live on a rock in space, and so I should just do it. So that's been honestly my favorite thing I've ever worked on. So I'm just happy to be writing music there. So that's been good.
I am with a lot of the spaces that I'm trying to create. I'm dealing with like chronic illness and like limited abilities and this desired community for third spaces that aren't monetized. So I'm trying to take this length of experience and resume and turn it into grants and put some pressure on the people who have money, because I see the amount of what the bathroom costs here, and I'm tired of my friends paying the $10, $15 going in circular, and we need to put the pressure, in my opinion, on the folks who have the money to maintain us. So at the end of this year, a lot of these grants I applied for from BED, and I have 2 coming up. 3 sound experiences at the end of the year. One is during the election. It's going to be a sound walking experience in the Bell Tower in downtown Ann Arbor. A space to reflect, get some support before the election, and then the week after, we're doing a sound bath experience to support with the results. A way to gather. The word healing, I know, isn't for everybody, so I can use the word experience, but I hope it to be healing. I'm also finishing up a commission for the Ann Arbor Library 200th anniversary for the Michigan Theater to create a sound walk experience for you. There'll be a little map, and you can walk through the space and experience it on that one. So I hope to keep creating, looking at spaces like this and how can I serve it immediately. I'm like, I want to use that piano in the back. So I just want to keep building in this area as I slowly come out. And so, yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for sharing your experiences.
I didn't
I'm sorry. Sorry, Jen. My bad.
I was like,
No, you go.
Yes.
I'm going to speak up.
Yes, good.
So I'm a connector, so I do a lot of different things that connect different entities and people together. One thing that I noticed, at least within Washtenaw County, Ann Arbor, is that the number of people of color, specifically Black people, are dwindling in my city, and it's of a concern to me. And I'm wanting to see people that look like me in my community. I did get a grant through the city of Ann Arbor through ARPA funds to create. I call it Simon, which is starting intentional momentum over networking. It is intended to bring 2 individuals together who may not have worked together before, and they could be, it's usually like a creative and someone who's not a creative. They are able to meet, talk about some things that they have in common. So I picked 4 things. I picked healing, education, mental health, and creative practice. And they meet, they talk about some things that they have in common, and they basically put together a presentation. They present it to a group of individuals. The sessions are for communities of color. So within my city, some people are like, I had no idea that this person existed. It's like bittersweet that they finally have met each other, but it's also just well, damn. So the one thing that I loved about this program, the last one that I'm having is in Ypsilanti on Thursday, September 26th. At the Deep End Cafe and Gallery, and it is going to be talking about mental health, but it also is an open mic night. So we basically threw the rest of our budget to the wind. So we were like, hey, we're gonna have more food, we're gonna have an open bar, we're gonna have gifts for the speakers who come before, and it's just a really good time for people who have never met each other to collaborate together. And so one person that actually came was specifically a Black woman who does dressage, so works with horses. And there was another woman who was just in healing, and they just had their own event yesterday at her farm, and they had never met each other before. And so it was really cool to incorporate healing plus her yoga plus dressage plus people who've never met with horses before. And that's really, really important to have those connections. And if I made one more, I run a nonprofit. I'm a co-executive director of Title Track, and our mission is we're all creatives who are working toward clean water, racial equity, and youth empowerment throughout the state. And so we have programming that's geared toward teaching people about anti-oppression and anti-racism, but specifically like it's a white affinity space. So if you have not been exposed to that as a white person, this is your chance to like ask the questions and have those conversations in a safe space. And then there are people of color during like one of the weeks, I think the third week, that just come and tell their stories. So it's a very like open time where people can like, but we're doing it virtually this year. But we did start another program called Healing Ourselves, which I'm not scared of, talking about healing. Like I think that's important, which is for communities of color that we basically decided we'll do in November, right after the election. So no matter what the outcome is, there's a healing space that we have in Traverse City for a weekend. But it's for communities of color who, again, don't know each other, want to learn a little bit more, and also as we learn these things, we also have healing practices at the end of each module together. But that's something I'm really excited about.
That's a lot of impressive work that you all did. So thank you for all of what you are going to bring to the community in different parts around Michigan. So thank you for that. And I'd like to open up if anyone in the audience has any questions you'd like to ask. I can hand a mic out if anyone would like to.
I wrote my questions down. Okay, but I have 3 questions, but I feel like they all kind of wrap into one question. So, like, something that I noticed in myself is, like, there was, like, talk about overextending and about, like, community and about being resilient, all the things, like, the advice. And I feel like I do overextend myself, and I find that I have a hard time, like, focusing because I do feel like community is important, and I think showing up to people's shows and supporting is really important, but there's also a lot of people to support. So how do you, like, decide where to put your time is, I feel like, something that I struggle with, because I tend to just want to do everything for everybody all the time. Or like when seeking opportunity, I'm like, well, if I do that, it could lead to this, or maybe this is cool. And I'm always trying all this different stuff. And then other times, like, opportunities fall in my lap that I wasn't even trying to get. So I feel like it sometimes results in me being like very unfocused and scrambled and overextended because I'm just like having fun, or I'm like trying a bunch of different stuff all the time, and I'm not exactly sure how to focus, or like how to decide where my focus goes. And I think the cliche answer is probably like, I just have to listen to what feels right to me. But like, I want a different answer. If you have one.
I actually, because I follow your social media, and we haven't spent time together, but I had that thought. I'm like, I don't want her to burn out. And I don't even know you that well, and I had that thought too. So it's funny because I removed myself for so long from it, and when we were going to talk, the thing that I was going to say is like health is really the key thing, and it really is an inner ecosystem for me, a compass and trust and slowness. And I've started having that fear come up again as I started moving out again, and things are moving and things are happening, there's places I have to be, and I'm like, whoa, foundationally, if I'm not checking in, right, like if we self-abandon, right, if we sacrifice ourselves, the foundation for our work will be compromised, right? I really think of it like a house. And so if we're building on a rotted foundation, it's not going to last. So for the sake of like long-term longevity, which, in terms of like your talents and variety of abilities, like you're going to be around as long as you want. And I'm hesitant to say this, but you'll find by my age, you'll find people will come and go. So caring for yourself and keeping that balance is really key, because we go all in on these music communities, but we don't know who's going to be here in 10 or 15 years. So our balance in deconstructing capitalism from our daily life, I think, will like help us all. But easier said than done. It's a practice, right? And we're figuring it out together. But that's, yeah.
Yeah, and just to add one little thing to that, as a person that really relates to everything that you said, like just doing a lot. I got advice from somebody one time that was like, you can't really do more than one thing at a time well. And I was like, that's bullshit, like, because I'm like that creative energy person, but I found a way to like fit that into my own life. So it's like, you know, if I'm putting out this new music, that's like my one thing right now. And then, you know, if there's like these new programs that I want to start at my studio, that's gonna have to be in a few months, because like my attention can really only do one thing so well before I'm really like, my mental health is like declining. So that was just one thing that helped me once I accepted it. Oh my God.
I would say too, just remember that like you can't pour from an empty cup, kind of like everyone else said. Like if you are not there mentally, you're in these spaces, but you're not even really engaging in the spaces because you're mentally drained or whatever the case may be. And also remember that like support is not just being in a physical space. So if somebody has a show and you know you had another